Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Exploring the Lord of the Rings. This is session number 236, and I am delighted to be with you here this evening. Tonight, we're going to talk about the beginning of the ominous mysteries that we see in Hollin. This whole section, from Aragorn's warning that we're going to be looking at here this evening, through there's several passages between here and when we get into Moria that are kind of low-key some of the passages I've been looking forward to talking about with you guys most for a long time. I say low-key because it's not like most of these passages are probably very few people's favorite passages. Like I don't think they make very many people's lists of passages that they want to have cross-stitched up in and framed on their wall. But they're really interesting. And the reason I've been so looking forward to discussing them with you is that there's several things here that I'm not sure that I know what they're talking about. So I've really been looking forward to going through them with you guys. But first, I have a bunch of announcements because, let's be frank, there's a whole lot of things happening right now. For those of you who are listening asynchronously, it is currently in real time 2 days before the Rings of Power show, the first episode of the Rings of Power show drops. So there's been a lot of discussion. And there's a lot of things happening. So let me kind of review briefly what's happening. So, of course, our Rings and Realms show that Maggie Park and I are doing, our analysis show, which is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for this whole season. I've got so many things I'm already to talk about for our first regular episode, the episode in which we're going to analyze episodes 1 and 2, which is, of course, going to be a big fat double episode because it's 2 episodes of the show. Anyway, so we're our first episode 0, like our introductory episode prior to the launch of the show, and before either Maggie or I had seen any of it, we recorded that before we saw the early screening. But that's going to drop tomorrow on the 31st, so you can see tomorrow evening, or maybe I think tomorrow afternoon actually, the first episode of Rings and Realms, and then we're going to be recording the next episode, which we'll release next week. So remember the plan for Rings and Realms. It's not a reaction show. It's not a place where you go for first reactions. It's a place where you go for analysis. So that's where I'm going to be doing a lot of deep dives, or some thoughtful discussion of the shape of the story itself. I'm going to be trying to follow my own advice that I have given many times, which is first think about the adapted story, the retelling itself. Make sure that you're understanding it as well as you can on its own ground and what it is doing as a story. Then you're in a position to compare it with the source material and what's going on there. So that's where we're. That's what we're focused on in Rings and Realms. So the Rings and Realms show is going to be dropping not right away. We're not trying to compete with anybody to get the first show out. We're trying to get the last show out, actually. So this is generally going to be dropping Wednesday nights, maybe Thursdays, early on Thursdays, during the whole run of the Rings of Power Season 1, so that you can, after having had a week to reflect and think through the episodes that will have seen since Thursday night or Friday morning, then we get a chance to kind of think it through in a little bit more detail and do some deep analysis. So that's the plan for Rings and Realms, and I'm excited about that. I did want to let people know that Maggie and I are going to continue doing Other Minds and Hands as well, mostly because, of course, the one downside to Rings and Realms is that it's pre-recorded, so we don't have any opportunity to interact with folks during that. So we wanted to make sure that we kept doing Other Minds and Hands, primarily in order to make sure that we have an avenue through which we can interact with people and answer questions and kind of have more open discussion with people. There is a chance that we're going to have some guests on Other Minds and Hands as well. Some guests from the production, from the Rings of Power production. I was talking on Twitter today that we're definitely, I've been in discussions with Bear McCreary's folks to talk with Bear McCreary on Other Minds and Hands. That's going to happen sometime in the next couple of weeks. We're trying to figure out the schedule still, so date TBA, but that's going to happen. And looking forward to that, especially after such a wonderful conversation we had with John Howe. So I'm really looking forward to talking about the music side as well as the art side. So anyway, so that's going to be happening soon, and we might get some other folks. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. I'm still waiting on those things. However, I did. Oh, let's see. Augustine is asking, will I be able to show footage from the episodes in the show? Yes, we will. We have permission to do that. So, yeah, absolutely. Now, I mentioned before that Rings and Realms is not where you're going to go for like immediate reaction to the show. If you do want to go somewhere for immediate reactions to the show, I got you covered there too. So, just recently, Maggie and I were approached and asked to host an official after show, co-host with Prime Video, an official after show for the Rings of Power. That's going to happen on Fridays, Friday afternoon at noon, East Coast time, 9 a.m. West Coast time, and what is that, 5 p.m. England time. So we're going to be hosting the official after show on Twitter. So we're going to do it through Twitter Spaces, and it's going to be really cool. We're hoping to have, I don't know the schedule there yet. That is all being worked out, and I'm not always privy to the process. But anyway, we're going to be doing some interviews with folks. We should be able to get some of the cast and to be joining us on the after show there. So that'll be fun to hang out with folks. So anyhow, yeah. So we're going to be doing that on Twitter Spaces. That will be. We are going to be recording that. We probably will record and post those conversations elsewhere too, for folks who aren't habitually on Twitter. But anyway. It's going to be, I'm looking forward to that too. So we'll have an opportunity for some more immediate reactions. That'll be a fairly brief show, especially by my standards. And then again, after that, then we'll be working on Rings and Realms, and the fully produced Rings and Realms will come out at the end of the weekly cycle there on Wednesday evening or Thursday afternoon. And then we'll do Other Minds and Hands and that's going to be, did I mention this already? That's going to be on Thursday afternoons. So Thursday afternoons at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time is going to be the new day and time for Other Minds and Hands. So that we wanted to make sure it was after the release of Rings and Realms. Basically, we didn't want to do Other Minds and Hands prior to it, as it would kind of defeat the purpose. So, JJ wants to know, will that interfere with Grifflet streams? No, JJ, it won't most of the time. Most of the time, it will not. I will be having my noon Twitter show, and I'll be done in time to do my Grifflet stream afterwards. So no worries. I say usually that won't be true this week. I won't be doing Grifflet this week because I'm going to be doing a guest appearance on the official Prime Video watch party on Twitch. So there's going to be an official Twitch watch party, and I'm going to be joining them for like the after show discussion. I'm not going to be doing the whole watch of the episodes with them on Friday afternoon, but I'm just going to come for some of the discussion after the episode then. So that's what's going on. Praise so far. I'm thinking we're gonna I should be able to sleep, but I'm not going to deny these next 7 weeks are going to be intense. It's going to be a little bit intense, not to mention the fact that we're also going to have, I'm going to have 4 moots that are happening during the midst of this time as well. So it's all good. It's all good. Okay, so that's what's wait, and one other thing I wanted to mention. I'm going to be watching the Rings of Power episodes as soon as they drop. Of course, I've seen the first 2, and I'm going to a screening again tomorrow. In fact, if anybody happens to be going to the Salem, New Hampshire Cinemark Theater for the screening, the fan screening tomorrow, Wednesday afternoon, or Wednesday evening rather, find me. Let's hang out and talk afterwards. But anyway, okay, so so I will have seen the first 2 episodes. But the other ones I'm not going to ever have seen before. So, of course, I'm going to be watching them as soon as they drop and probably rewatching them after that. But I figured it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to sort of watch them together. And so here's my plan. Here's my plan. When the episodes drop publicly for the first time, I'm going to start up a watch party on the Signum U Twitch channel. So twitch.tv/SignumU. That's it. That's the web address. I knew that. Anyway, so on the Signum U Twitch channel, we're going to do a watch party. I will start the watch party as soon as the episodes drop. Now, keep in mind, when we do watch parties whenever Twitch watch parties, you have to have a Prime subscription, of course, to watch it. The fact that we're broadcasting it on Twitch doesn't give us the ability to get around the fact that you do have to have a Prime subscription in order to watch the show. So that's why it's legal and stuff. So anyway, so we're going to, I'm going to stream it. I'm not going to talk over it. I'm not going to actually have my audio on at all during the show. But we can have some some text conversation. We can be in the chat for people who want to be in the chat while we're watching it. Because most of the time, not this week, but the rest of the weeks, I'm going to be watching it for the first time. So I want to make sure that I'm, I'm going to be taking notes and stuff. Anyhow, however, it's going to be really helpful for me to kind of talk it through a little bit, because I kind of think with my mouth. So it's going to be really helpful for me to kind of talk as soon as I finish watching it, to kind of process it a little bit in preparation for planning for the various shows that I'm doing. That's what I'm going to be up to on Thursday evenings, basically. Evening for me means between midnight and 4 a.m. So normally the episodes are going to drop at midnight when they do. So I'll broadcast the episode on our Twitch channel for people who have Prime subscriptions. You can join in the chat, and we can be in the chat, and then I'll turn on my audio and we can kind of talk, kind of process things together a little bit after the show at 1 or a.m. or whenever it's done. I know that's not convenient for everybody, but I just wanted to let people know that that's my plan. So if you do happen to be up and around, you can join me for that. That's when midnight is when episodes 2 through 8 or 3 through 8 are going to be dropping starting next week, Jackie. This week, of course, episodes 1 and 2 drop at 9 p.m. Eastern time here, and anyway, so at midnight, that's midnight Eastern time, Chris. Yes, midnight Eastern time is when they drop starting next week. So it'll only be 11 for you, Chris. That's easy, right? 9 p.m. PST. That's exactly right. It is a little more friendly for people on the West Coast, for sure. Anyway, okay, so I just want to let people know that's happening. I'm going to do this on this coming Thursday, too, when the first 2 episodes drop at 9 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to do a watch party. In fact, this Thursday, I'm doing a hybrid watch party because I'm also doing an on-site watch party for friends and family. We're gonna be at the studio where we film Rings and Realms to see it on the big screen in there. So I invited my Rabbit in Winnie the Pooh, all my friends and relations, and we're gonna see it in the big screen. We're still gonna do the Twitch watch party together there. So if you wanted to watch it together, and you can be in the chat with other folks, and then we'll do some discussion afterwards. After that as well. That's going to be starting at 9 o'clock this coming Thursday. So how long is an episode? Over an hour. I don't remember the running time. I wasn't looking at my watch. When I saw the first 2, that is, I wasn't really looking at my watch, but they were longish. I think they're longer than an hour. Anyhow, Okay. So lots of things happening. I'll try to remind people of the sort of calendar for these things as we move forward. Yes. Don't worry, Sharon. I'm not going to pause it. Because when we're doing the watch party, it's going to be not this week, but most of the time, it's going to be my first time through as well. So my first time through, I'm definitely going to want to just watch. I'm probably not even going to take too many notes the first time. I'll watch it again afterwards and take notes. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So, lots of things going on. And by the way, Margan on Twitch was asking, was I involved in the production of the Rings of Power? I was not involved in the production in any way, other than I suppose indirectly, as when I met a bunch of folks at Comic-Con, several people in the writer's room and stuff said that a lot of them listened to the show, to this show, among others. So there was a lot of... So that means, in fact, not only did I have some indirect contributions to the Rings of Power show, but so did you guys who are here participating. So there you go. Anyway, yeah. So no. I'm not. I'm only a guy who likes to talk about Tolkien on the internet, and so I'm going to be doing a lot of talking about Tolkien on the internet here over the course of the next few weeks. Yes, Drow Snake, particularly you, actually. Yeah. I'm here confirming that you personally, your fingerprints are all over the Rings of Power. I think that's exactly it. Anyway, okay. Yeah. Hardenkrantz says we're all deeply involved, just not deeply enough to get paid. I know, right? Tell me about it. Join the club. Anyway. Okay. But guess what? So in addition to all of this other, stuff that's been going on around the Rings of Power and stuff, like meanwhile, off in another portion of Signum, our space program is killing it. Have you looked at our space program lately? I mean, okay, I just have to share because this is like, where did my share go? Okay, here's my share. All right. So first of all, look at our nice new website, totally redesigned website, which is like not slow and stuff. It's awesome. Boom. Oh, did you see that page load? That was a hot right there. Sorry. This is, anyway. Okay. Space is phenomenal. So go to our degree programs. That's our MA program, which is also awesome. Check out what's going on in space right now. So let's scroll down to where we see the current modules that are starting like this coming month in September, right? Check out what's going on in space. So not only do we have in our creative writing sector, not only do we have the creative writing workshop, which is fantastic. Sparrow does a marvelous creative writing workshop. But we're also having, for the first time, a module on game mastery, the complete game master with Richard Rowland, who is a phenomenal game master. And so is teaching this module to help people to build their campaigns, people who are running tabletop role-playing campaigns. So cool. He is so awesome. Richard is OP. Holy cow. Richard is... We're talking about a game master who like composes poetry in imagined languages in support of his own campaigns, right? Unbelievable. He is so good. Anyway, so he's going to be teaching this module, which is fantastic. We got our fantasy sector in which we're doing, Tom Hillman is doing Pity in the Lord of the Rings. He's got a book that's coming out, which is phenomenal. Tom Hillman, such a brilliant Tolkien scholar. Serena Higgins is doing her dragons class. We've got several Rings of Power stuff for folks who want some Rings of Power support. We've got Sarah Brown teaching a class on Unfinished Tales. James Tauber and Elise Trudel Cedeno doing their Second Age of Middle-earth module. We've got the Rings of Power discussion group with Sarah Brown and James Tauber, who are working together to do for people who want to be discussing the episodes in a classroom setting with Sarah and James. Really, really cool stuff going on there. And the fantastic in East Asia, Robert Steed has been doing a whole bunch. He's been sort of leading a couple of our preceptors who have been doing a bunch of Eastern stuff. We've been so Western focused in a lot of the stuff that we've done traditionally in our Signum courses. It's been so cool to be opening up some of this Eastern stuff and really beginning to get outside the scope of what we've covered before. So neat. And then we're Inventing King Arthur. Yes, a module on Geoffrey of Monmouth's History of the Kings of Britain with Liam Daly. We've got our language classes. We're doing for those who have studied some Old English before, a reading module on Cunewulf's Christ, the poem that inspired Middle Earth, right? James Tauber doing ancient Greek morphology. I mean, come on, right? But of course, we have our beginning ones too. We're starting a new, we're doing a module on Scottish Gaelic song. Seriously. We're continuing to run a cohort in Japanese, in Latin, in Old Norse. Oh man. And then don't even get me started on the ones that are coming, right? Holy cow. Like if you sign up for BlackBerry, you can look at the ones that are the candidates that are out there for October, and it's even more. It's incredible. So there's so much fun stuff that's happening in space, and I've got people in my own family and friends and everybody who are taking space modules and are just loving it. So anyway, I hope that you guys take a look at these, and there's a whole bunch of things I'm working on. I can confirm, for instance, that I have finally succeeded. Not that it actually took a whole lot of arm twisting in recruiting Willie Jenkins, New Better Do Better, to teach a space module with us, which is going to happen, I think, in November. Anyway, it's so much fun stuff that's happening. So I definitely commend Space to your attention. It's such a wonderful program. It's been an immensely refreshing way for people to just immerse themselves in the stuff that they're interested in, the stuff that they love. Space is literally everything that's fun about school, about learning, with none of the bad stuff, right? None of the pressure, none of the heavy work. It's just exploration and discovery and discussion and shared enthusiasm, and an opportunity to learn things you've always wanted to learn, or to go deeper into to find a community of people to discuss something that you love, and have been always wishing you had this kind of a venue to discuss things in. Anyway, it's really exactly. Sharon says it's the cool tangents you wish you could have gone on. Exactly. No, so I just can't recommend it enough. I'm looking forward. We're soon going to be launching some space modules not taught in English. We're expanding outwards, and going to be offering offering a module in Portuguese for our friends in Brazil who are really wanting to get in on the space fun. So there's all kinds of things that are happening here in space, and I just wanted to draw people's attention to it because it is really, really exciting. So anyway, okay, so that's lots of announcements, but there's so much happening these days. Now let's get back to the text. Okay, you'll remember that Strider was listening, right? He was aloof from everybody. Everybody else was gathered in the camp, and there was merriment and laughter, and Strider was standing aloof, and Strider moved off, and he was looking and listening, right? And then he was standing at the edge of the dell, and he was looking down at them, right? And this is when Mary notices him. "What is the matter, Strider?" Mary called up. "What are you looking for? Do you miss the east wind?" "No, indeed," he answered, "but I miss something. I have been in the country of Hollin in many seasons. No folk dwell here now, but many other creatures live here at all times, especially birds. Yet now all things but you are silent. I can feel it. There is no sound for miles about us, and your voices seem to make the ground echo. I do not understand it." Gandalf looked up with sudden interest. "But what do you guess is the reason?" he asked. "Is there more in it than surprise at seeing 4 hobbits, not to mention the rest of us? where people are so seldom seen or heard? I hope that is it, answered Aragorn, but I have a sense of watchfulness and of fear that I have never had here before. Then we must be more careful, said Gandalf. If you bring a ranger with you, it is well to pay attention to him, especially if the ranger is Aragorn. We must stop talking aloud, rest quietly, and set the watch. All right. Yes, Almaria, it's very creepy when the birds go quiet, right? Now, one of the things, of course, that is very sort of easy to notice, right, is the difference in register. Merry immediately starts joking, right? What's the matter? What are you looking for? Do you miss the east wind? Do you miss the east wind is funny, right? But funny how? Funny why? Like, what exactly is Merry teasing Strider about here? The implication seems to me to be that, and tell me what you think of this. The implication seems to me to be that Merry can see nothing wrong. Like, they've been kind of miserable. They've had a rough couple weeks, right? It's been very unpleasant, especially that east wind was one of the most notable things, right? That most notably uncomfortable elements of their journey to this point. But things just finally changed, right? Things just finally got better. And now they're happier and they're more comfortable. They're resting for today, right? So they're yeah. Do you miss being uncomfortable? Seems to be exactly the implication there, Jackie, right? And so he identifies the east wind as like the sort of poster child of the discomforts of the last fortnight, right? And for Merry, that seems to sort of sort it up. And so that what he seems to be teasing Aragorn about, as far as I can see, is, what you seem to be having a hard time being comfortable, right? You seem to be determined to be like miserable, like everyone else is able to enjoy themselves, but here's you, standing up there looking grim. Do you miss the east wind? Would you be happier, Strider, if we were all still miserable? Right? Does all this merriment make you feel out of place, Strider? Right? Which again is a fun way to tease Aragorn, right? His response, notice, he does not reflect the tone, right? No, indeed, is his answer. Right? Now, this is not quite as bad as, do not say such things. I can remember when he was getting all scoldy back in the marshes and stuff, the Midgewater marshes. It's not quite so bad as that, right? But he doesn't, and he rolls with it. No, indeed, but I missed something, right? I feel like if this were Gandalf would have immediately said something sharp, right? He would have returned that little jab to Merry with topspin, right? Had it been Gandalf that Merry was addressing like this. But yeah, no, Strider doesn't play that way. I still think that Strider's pretty bad at hobbitry. It is just not. Yeah, no, indeed, but I missed something. And then he just explains what he misses. Right now, notice Gandalf is still not 100% letting go. He's not just joking like Merry was joking, right? And yet, Gandalf's tone remains light. What do you guess is the reason? And then he suggests what is a legitimate reason, right? People don't live down here. And so therefore, a group of 9 people camping is liable to spook the local, the local wildlife, right? They don't normally see people. So a large group of people, maybe they're all freaked out just for that reason, right? But he doesn't just say that. You know, his saying is there more in it than surprise at seeing 4 hobbits? That's a joke, right? As if they would all, like the birds and beasts, would all be aghast at seeing 4 hobbits, right? So he's teasing the hobbits, right? He's saying this obviously looking at the hobbits out of the corner of his eye, right? That's a joke not only at their expense, but for their benefit, right? Yeah. And that is interesting. Praise, I think you're right. Praise has been doing the Return of the Shadow, and is saying that the way that Tolkien retconned Trotter's successful hobbitry into Aragorn's more awkward, unsuccessful responses is quite remarkable. Yeah. Trotter, the Hobbit guide, which was the original character before Trotter became a human, right, who became Aragorn, before the Trotter character was replaced by the Aragorn character. But yeah, Trotter was a hobbit, and definitely used this kind of hobbitry himself. Anyway, yeah, okay, so both right, Chris and Gregory down in YouTube was also suggesting that and Tim also, the fox was in fact surprised to see 3 hobbits, right, on the road at night. Yeah, but first of all, there are several things to say to that. But the most important thing I think to say to that is that was a Shire fox, right? The Shire fox is surprised not at seeing 3 hobbits, but at seeing 3 hobbits sleeping under a tree at night, right? The fox is surprised not because hobbits are unusual, but because he knows hobbits and is surprised at the deviant behavior of these particular 3 hobbits, right? The fox is a wily fox veteran, right, with much hobbit experience, with much firsthand hobbit, a lifetime, a vulpine lifetime of hobbit observation, right, behind him. Exactly, Musical. They're unexpected per the customs with which the fox is familiar. Exactly. Yes, so a non-Shire fox might perhaps be stunned into silence, but again, I really don't think that Gandalf is seriously suggesting that, like the songbirds of Hollin, are going to be particularly differentiating the hobbits from the rest of them and standing in shock. Instead, he's teasing the hobbits for being strangers here, but also, I think, in this comment, as in Gandalf's other comments that we've been looking at, I think that once again we can see here Gandalf, well, being a leader, right? We can see Gandalf's leadership at play. I think he wants to reassure the hobbits. Merry reacting with a joke to seeing Strider, right? Merry starting the conversation with a joke is, of course, totally normal for Merry, right? But when Aragorn makes his non-joking response, right? It's not just the tone; it's also the substance of what Aragorn has said, right? And Gandalf is obviously paying attention, right? He looks up with sudden interest. He believes that what Aragorn is noting, is observing, is significant. And yet, Gandalf couches his reply, or he contextualizes his reply with a joke directed at the hobbits and for the hobbits' benefit, right? As if to signal to them there's no reason to be afraid, right? Don't panic would be one way, I think, to sort of summarize Gandalf's tone and approach here in this paragraph, in this response. He's still taking it seriously, and asking Aragorn for more information and for clarification, right? What do you guess is the reason? Is a question he seems to really want the answer to. Silk Weskett asks, is Gandalf trying to draw Aragorn out to make a premonition or other leadership move? Yes, I think he knows Aragorn well enough to know that Aragorn might have some kind of insight into what is what's going on here, right? What do you guess is the reason? Is a request for interpretation, right? Not just tell me what you've seen. Tell me what you think it means. And of course, he knows that Aragorn's guesses are liable to be good, right? Because Aragorn has a lot of experience, right? Aragorn has seen the country of Hollin in many seasons and many other countries in many other seasons, and has made a large number of observations, right, of the fauna of these areas. When has he ever encountered anything like this? Can he make a guess as to what's going on? But he doesn't do it in any way so as to cause alarm among the hobbits. Notice that Gandalf also offers, maybe a better way to say it, offers an innocuous explanation. Is there more in it than surprise at seeing 4 hobbits, not to mention the rest of us, where people are so seldom seen or heard? One could hear this as him sort of marginalizing Aragorn's like, oh, it's probably nothing, right? I certainly don't think that he is not taking Aragorn seriously. His next words plainly demonstrate that he is taking Aragorn seriously. But he does offer up as a potential explanation, right? He basically sort of starts from that framework, right? Now, there is an obvious way to understand this, which is not really alarming, right? Maybe they're just spooked because we're here. Maybe it's just that. In other words, what he seems to be doing there is kind of probing Aragorn. What reason do you have to think it's more than that? Obviously, he knows that Aragorn will have thought of that, right? So he's not suggesting that in the sense of, again, like, he's not patronizing Aragorn here. But he is clearly prompting him. But he's also offering reassurance as well. I think, clearly reassurance. And because he's doing it, I think it's clear because he's doing it with a joke. Yes, praise, exactly. I do think he's trying to keep the hobbits calm. And yes, Hrothgar, at the same time, he's also looking for more data points in order to make the best decision for the group. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Stephen wants to know, is Gandalf indicating that he had noticed the same thing but hadn't realized it was something more worrying? I don't know. I mean, does this... Gandalf doesn't say something like, I have noticed that too, or something like that, and he might say that if he had. I think it more likely that he hasn't really noticed it in the same way. In part, very likely, because he's not had the same opportunity. Gandalf's the life of the party here in the little dell where they're sitting here, and they've been making a lot of noise. As Aragorn points out, your voices seem to make the ground echo, right? And yes, Bjorning, Gandalf absolutely can make mistakes. So I don't think that... sometimes it's kind of tempting to be like, Gandalf surely knew, right? Gandalf must have known. No, I think it's very possible. His looking up with sudden interest suggests to me that this is news to him, that he is not merely having some of his own suspicions confirmed or something like that, that he legitimately not noticed. Anyway, let's go back to Aragorn's observations. But I miss something. I have been in the country of Hollin in many seasons. No folk dwell here now, but many other creatures live here at all times, especially birds. Yet now all things but you are silent. that by itself is an interesting thing. Notice he is not saying that he believes that Hollin is empty. He's not saying that this place has been abandoned, right? All life has fled from this area. What he is saying is all things but you are silent. The birds, I guess, are still there, but they're just not saying anything. They're not making any noise. And that's actually more eerie. It would be an ominous sign if all of the local fauna had fled, right? That's a bad look. Usually when that happens, the animals know better than you do, right? But this would seem to be more than that. And yeah, Ardencran, it's not clear. Ardencran is asking, is it Aragorn saying the birds were chirping before now, or that they weren't, but it didn't bother him until now because he assumed the wind was drowning them out? We're not really told when he first noticed the silence. But I think it is very recent. I don't think that it's... yeah. I don't see any reason to believe that things are... Remember, here's the reason I think that it's a new phenomenon, like just as of the morning that this is happening. The reason I think that is because Gandalf, remember, makes his speech when he's doing his introductory speech to Hollin, and says that, okay, so here we are in Holland, and this will be a good place to rest, right? Much evil must befall a country, right? Before it wholly forgets the elves. Remember all that. I would think that would have been the point at which Aragorn would have spoken up and said, well, yeah, but something ain't right here, right? You're right about Holland generally being a pretty good place to hang out, but I've been in the country of Holland in many seasons, and something is definitely wrong here, right? And he didn't say anything like that before. Hrothgar is speculating that perhaps the stones were chattering so much to Legolas that they were drowning out. He didn't notice the silence because of all the noise from the rocks, and that is of course possible. But I rather doubt it. Mr. Big is suggesting that now would obviously be a perfect time for Boromir to blow his horn again, because that's always convenient. But yeah, no, I don't think we have any reason to believe that he would just have missed it before, or that he wouldn't have said anything when Gandalf was like, this is great, we'll be safe here, right? This will be a wholesome, safe place to stay for a while, we're going to rest. That Aragorn made no peep about that at the time suggests to me that this is only now, after they've stopped, after they're camping, and now, the morale of the company is very high, right? Because of their rest, because of the change of the weather, probably even because of that wholesome atmosphere of Hollin, right? And the way in which Gandalf has been successfully leading them and kind of guiding them, not only physically, but also sort of guiding them emotionally and spiritually as well. We've been looking at the way in which Gandalf has been kind of managing the mood of the company, and particularly of Frodo and the hobbits, right? But yes, Druid's Fire, as you say, Aragorn never went off duty, and he noticed that this, I think, began happening. So Madagot this is exactly the question. If the birds have only just gone quiet, it begs the question, what changed? Exactly. What did change? Now, oh man, Spielkau, I completely agree with you. Your voices make the ground echo is a very strange choice of words. Yes, it is. There is no sound for miles about us, and your voices seem to make the ground echo. What is Aragorn emphasizing? Why does he say this? There is no sound for miles about us. Seems to be what he has ascertained by moving off from the company and listening, right? He does not even hear distant noises of things like birds and stuff, right? Now, I agree, Jackie, that an echo makes sense in stony foothills, right? There would probably be quite a few echoes along the ground. And I'm thinking, Jackie, that if he has gone out away from the camp in order to be able to try to hear better, listen for anything else, right? I think that how far away he would have been able to hear them, right? And even to hear the echoes of their laughter, bouncing off the rocks. I don't doubt there are literal echoes involved here. And yet it also does, as Bjarnasonar is suggesting, it does also make the place sound incredibly desolate. Not only no sources of noise, but not even any soft material to absorb the noise that you're making. It really is those two elements, isn't it? The emphasis about their voices seeming to make the ground echo. Not only is there, has something happened, right, to the fauna around here, or they've noticed something, but it's not right. Something is not right here, right? But not only that, you guys are standing out like you would not expect, right? Your voices seem to make the ground echo. Because everything else is silent, you guys are extremely noticeable. So in other words, he's conveyed two really important pieces of information to the party leader, hasn't he? One, something's happening. I don't know what it is, but something is not right in this area. Two, as a consequence of that, the company is exposing itself in ways like secret. We're supposed to be secret, right? We're supposed to be staying secret. And remember, they have reason to believe that they're secret. They're they're in the dell surrounded by these holly trees, right? These like ancient, dense holly trees. They probably believe they're entirely invisible, which is probably true, right? They probably cannot be seen from a distance. And so they feel safe. And of course, Gandalf gave his speech about the wholesomeness of Holland and all that kind of thing. So they probably feel off their guard, completely safe, and snugly concealed there in their sheltered dell, right? And yet Aragorn is saying, don't let your guard down. Don't let your guard down. This is the secrecy of the company is compromised. Not because, he's not yelling at him, right? He's not, I don't think he's chastising Gandalf here. I think the point is he's saying there's something you don't understand. There's no cover noise. You guys talking and laughing down there. Again, Gandalf might have said something, when Merry says, do you miss the east wind? Gandalf might have said something like, no, but you're louder than the east wind, right? Kind of firing back and teasing Merry. Strider doesn't do that, but that does seem to be the idea that he's conveying. Exactly, to Juice Man. There's no sound for miles, and therefore every sound we make will carry for miles. We are very exposed here. Yes, warning, there is danger of more than one kind, right? Potentially. And he doesn't have any idea what that is. So yes, the making the ground echo is important. By the way, I also cannot help but think on sort of another level there. We're just talking about the chattering of the ground, right? About the rocks here in Holland, talking to Legolas. And the reference to the ground, their voices making the ground echo. Well, this is the ground that remembers the elves of Hollin, right? And so I think that there's this sense, it's hard for me not to kind of connect those two sentences, right? In some manner or other. And I think in its way, again, he's being sort of gentle here. The ground probably is probably echoing back fairly enthusiastically, right? The rocks remember the elves of Hollin, and they remember them with pleasure, right? And now here, folk are seldom seen here. No folk dwell here at all now, right? But now some folk are visiting, and they're merry folk, right? They're having a great time. They're talking and laughing, and their talking and laughing is being taken up and echoed back to them from the ground, right? Which seem to be enjoying their presence, and yet, under the circumstances, when they're trying to remain a secret, that's not a great thing. Shut up, Rocks. Shh. We're trying to keep a low profile here, Rocks. But at the same time, there's something strange going on that he clearly doesn't understand. See, I don't know if the wholesomeness of Hollin is gone. Again, Bjorning, I kind of feel like Hollin is sort of responding to them, right? But yet something alien has come. So one of two things has happened. Either Hollin, like the wholesomeness of Hollin, has been genuinely compromised, which would be the case if all of the birds and beasts were like dead or gone, right? That would be a significant change for the worst. But again, if that had happened, he would have noticed it much sooner than this. And he hasn't. So again, I think that this is not they came into Holland to find it abandoned by all living creatures, right? That's clearly not what happened. Or even, Gandalf would have noticed that, Aragorn would have noticed that, and they would have said something about it earlier. Again, somebody would have used that as a reason to say, maybe, camping for 36 hours here, not such a good idea as we might think. But they didn't say that. So again, I think there must have been birdsong before, but there isn't now. So as we said, something changed. Something has happened. Something is approaching, and it's not them, right? Presumably. Or they would have been surrounded by a sphere of silence the whole time. Yes. All things but you are silent. Again, he doesn't say they're gone. He thinks they're still there. But for some reason, the birds aren't singing. And that's concerning, right? Aragorn's response to Gandalf's half-comical question, is there more in it than surprise at seeing 4 hobbits? I hope that is it, answered Aragorn, but I have a sense of watchfulness and of fear that I have never had here before. A sense of watchfulness and of fear, and Hrothgar, I completely agree with you that the sense of watchfulness and fear suggests he believes the animals are there, right? They wouldn't be watchful. The land he wouldn't have a sense of watchfulness. He'd have a sense of emptiness, right? That I have never had here before. He's been here lots of times, and he feels the contrast. So this is not like a migratory issue, right? This is something is afraid, something is watchful. Notice Aragorn's also sort of implying, no, it can't just be because we're here, right? I have a sense of watchfulness and fear I have never had here before. Now, Aragorn is very woodcrafty, I don't doubt, but I'm sure the birds and beasts noticed his presence before, right? So he's saying, yes, it's true that, people walking through this area might kind of spook the birds and beasts a little bit, right? Maybe. But he's been here many times, and I don't think we can assume that he's always been here alone, even necessarily, right? And yet, despite the fact that he has been a person walking through Hollin, perceived presumably by the beasts and birds of Hollin, he's never noticed anything like this before. And remember, this is the extra information. Gandalf is asking him, what do you guess is the reason, right? So don't just give me the data. Tell me what it means. Tell me what you believe it means. Interpret the data for me. And he says, his answer, his guess, is watchfulness and fear. I have a sense of watchfulness and fear. That's like an indirect observation. It's not a conclusion, right? He's not speculating about the cause, notice, right? He doesn't do that. Gandalf asks him to do that, and Aragorn doesn't. He does not take up Gandalf's invitation, explicitly stated invitation, to speculate about what the cause of this effect could be. Instead, what he does is give a little bit more indirect data. I have a sense of watchfulness and of fear. So it's like a local conclusion, right? Here's what I perceive. Here's the conclusion I draw based on what I perceive. What I conclude is that the creatures are A, still here, and B, afraid and on guard. And in a very unusual way, unique in his experience of coming through. Gandalf's immediate response, then we must be more careful. If you bring a ranger with you, it is well to pay attention to him, especially if the ranger is Aragorn. We must stop talking aloud, rest quietly, and set the watch. And yes, exactly. I'm looking at you, Boromir. And no horn blowing. Yes. Jackie, I agree with you that the use of the word fear is significant. That is a strong emotion, right? It's not just a wild animal that remains still and silent when an unknown large creature walks by is merely being prudent, right? That's not fear. A sense of watchfulness and of fear. Notice how in Aragorn's words, it's like watchfulness is the primary thing, right? The way that end of fear is set off by commas there suggests that that's a kind of an add-on thought, right? He doesn't just say, I have a sense of watchfulness and fear. In which case, if he said, but I have a sense of watchfulness and fear, those would have been the two ideas that he had from the beginning, right? But here, he seems to add that on after the fact. I have a sense of watchfulness and of fear, right? He's trying to put his finger on the quality of what he has observed. He is reading the room, so to speak. I think that's a good way to think about it, Gildalwyn. Yes. Interesting. Rowan on the River says, I think about the spooky calm that happens before a big storm system or a tornado moves through. That's the feeling I get here. Watchfulness. Yeah. Watchfulness and fear. Sure. Many of us, of course, have experience with pets hiding under the bed or something like that when a storm is coming. I think that's actually an interesting sort of parallel, right? Now, we don't know. We don't know what's causing it, right? But again, you'll notice how we've been sort of tantalized by this, right? What I mean is Gandalf explicitly asks Aragorn to guess the reason. What do you think is causing it? And Aragorn has pointedly declined to do that. I'm not going to speculate what could have caused this. Something caused it, right? Something is currently, at this moment, freaking out the local fauna. And, by the way, it wasn't doing that at dawn, right? Nor last night. But now it is. Something has come. So some of you were asking about the Nazgul. Could it be that like the Nazgul came this way and the fauna is still freaked out? No, because they would have come through months ago, right? And again, I think the text implies that the spooking of the local fauna is something that's happened just in the last few hours, not something that's been true for months. One could imagine angry but uncloaked Nazgul coming through here and freaking out the local fauna as a result, right? And many of them scattering and leaving and therefore still being gone, right, when the company comes through, perhaps. That's a possible scenario, I can imagine, but that does not seem to fit the facts that we're getting. Well, I'm not sure, Bjorning. Bjorning says, whatever threatens the land is reacting to the merry and conspicuously loud party of travelers. I don't know. Remember, the company, you could say, I guess going a little bit too far perhaps, but you could possibly say that Aragorn implies two different audiences interacting with the company. The fauna, on the one hand, and the ground, on the other hand, right? Their voices seeming to make the ground echo. But the fauna and the ground don't seem to agree with one another, which is hardly surprising, as apparently the trees and plants in the ground don't agree either, right? The ground goes its own way here in Hollin. It has a longer memory. And I don't think that making the ground echo suggests that the ground is reacting negatively in any way to their voices. But the animals do seem to be reacting. But I don't think that, again, Gandalf was saying maybe they're just reacting to us. Maybe we're spooking them. But Aragorn does not seem to think so. If he did, presumably, he'd have said, right? Presumably he would have said. And now, Dennis, I actually can more easily believe that the rocks would be marveling at the hobbits than that the animals would in all seriousness be marveling at the hobbits. Truth to tell, I cannot imagine that like a sparrow or whatever, or a lark or whatever, is gonna be more shocked by, Pippin than by Boromir, right? More startled, that is, by Pippin than by Boromir. The rocks, with their longer memory, might find it noteworthy, but then again, the memory of the rocks are so long that they would probably remember hobbits, actually, from before, because hobbits would presumably have come through this way at some point. Yeah. Now, interesting. Okay, hang on, JJ. Let me follow your thread here. You were asking... Aragorn saying, I have a sense of watchfulness and fear. Does that mean he has a sense of the watchfulness and fear that things around him are experiencing, or that he himself is experiencing watchfulness and fear? Great question. I think he is not describing his own feelings. I think that he is, when he says, I have a sense of, he doesn't mean I am feeling watchfulness and fear rising up spontaneously within me. I think that he is saying, I am picking up on, exactly, Jackie, I am picking up on watchfulness and fear. Again, what he does not do is what Gandalf asks and speculate about the cause, but what he does do is say, okay, I've made like 1,000 tiny observations, right? Let me give you the big picture. Let me show you the pattern that those observations are forming. The pattern that I'm picking up here, the pattern that I hear or don't hear, is watchfulness and fear from this area. That's what I think is going on here in Holland. Now, it is possible, as I think Praise was suggesting, that it could be both in a sense, but I definitely lean towards him. Yeah, exactly, Amaria. More like him saying, the vibe I'm getting is watchfulness and fear, right? Oh, sorry, Musical, that was you. Sorry. Right. Again, I always like to entertain the possibility that it's both. We don't always have to choose when it comes to interpreting things like this. I know your twins, Praise, which was making me feel particularly guilty about confusing which one of you it was, though I suppose it does help to explain it, as I still do. Having met you guys at LA Moot before, was I still do, associate you two together. But anyway, yeah, no, JJ, it's a great question. It's a great question. Yeah. And of course, like, he is responding to watchfulness with watchfulness, right? And that's indeed what he's going to recommend, right? We should be watchful. Watchfulness seems like a great plan right about now. Let's follow the example of the wise fauna of this area and adopt some watchfulness. Though, not that he's advocating fear, of course. And notice that Gandalf immediately picks it up, right? Then we must be more careful. If you bring a ranger with you, it is well to pay attention to him, especially if the ranger is Aragorn. Gandalf takes Aragorn's warning seriously, but he definitely does not respond to fear with fear, right? He still, if Merry is 100% joking, right, in full hobbitry mode at the beginning of this passage, and Gandalf, with his "is it more than surprise at seeing 4 hobbits," is half joking, right? Here Gandalf is like 25% joking, right? His hobbitry meter is down to about somewhere between 10 and 25%, right? But it's still not zero. The "if you bring a ranger with you" sentence is still kind of whimsical, right? If you bring a ranger with you, it's well to pay attention to him, right? He's not making light of it, but he's still speaking lightly. He's not making a joke. He's certainly not putting off Aragorn's words with a joke or anything like that. But he is... but I think that we can still see Gandalf, resisting fear, right? Gandalf could say something like, "I've got a bad feeling about this," right? He could say something, he could follow up exactly with the logical questions you guys were asking. What is it that's scaring the local fauna? What has arrived since morning, right, that created this effect? What's about to come around the corner, right, which is spooking all of the fauna? And Gandalf doesn't go in any of those directions, right? He still, through his choice of wording, keeps it light. If you bring a ranger with you, it's well to pay attention to him, especially if the ranger is Aragorn, right? Yeah, it sure is, Gandalf. That's good advice, right? If you bring a ranger with you, pay attention to him. So let's not ignore Strider, shall we? Therefore, Aragorn is right. We must stop talking aloud, rest quietly, and set the watch. But I think that we can still see Gandalf deliberately attempting to prevent fear from setting in. But it doesn't. And you're right, Trifle, by the way, that their seclusion does mean that they have poor sight lines as well. Yeah. They can't see anything coming from a distance, and if they keep laughing and talking, they're not going to hear anything coming either, right, if it gets closer. Yeah. There are lots of reasons. Watchfulness. Let's set the watch, right? Let us reflect the watchfulness, but not the fear. We can see it clearly in his response there. What do we think it is? Why has the fauna of Hollin fallen silent? What's the answer to the riddle? What do you guess is the reason? I don't know. Soon we're going to see the Crabine, right? The Crabine incident is coming before too long. But I don't think so. Here's the reason I don't think so. I don't think Crabine are that scary. It's weird for them to be here. But I don't think they're scary in themselves. I don't know anything about Crabine that would suggest that their arrival would frighten all of the local fauna, right? It's true, Chris. Millions of them might be sufficient, but I don't think we get millions. I have doubts about millions. Yes, and Bjorning in Exile points out they also don't arrive for hours. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And as Trifle is warning us, remembering ahead, we're going to get the Crabine soon. We're then going to get Karathros being cranky, and then we're going to get wargs. The wargs are far away. Very far away. It can't be the wargs. The wargs would have come across them a heck of a lot sooner than they did, right? If there were wargs close enough to freak out the local swallows, right? Even the Crabine are hours away, at the least. Yeah. So what do we think? A couple people have suggested that it could be the ring. Do we think? Is it possible? It's Saruman, says Nancy. Oh, man. Okay. Personally, I don't believe it. Let me say, though, before I explain that I don't believe it, let me first say it's a really interesting theory. There's a lot that I really like about it. A lot. I kind of want that to be true. I think that would be cool if that were true, but I don't think it's true. And the reason I don't think it's true is that I don't think it fits the overall facts. First of all, if the ring had this kind of dampening effect on local fauna, it would presumably have happened elsewhere. Now, you might say that, well, maybe it's because Hollin and because, there's, something about the wholesomeness of Hollin is responding to, so some of the sort of leftover, elf magic juice, right, whatever that's here in Hollin is that's what's responding to to the ring. And so, and obviously Holland, Eregion we're talking about here, right? Eregion, one could understand if Eregion had a particular antipathy to the One Ring. But as Belongspon points out, it didn't work on the Necrobreakers. Right. There's never been any indication of anything like this before. We've had no indication that the ring has any impact on the fauna. Now, it's getting closer to Mordor, but not that close to Mordor yet, right? So that's another reason that I think it's not the ring, because we don't see the ring acting consistently like this in this way. But not only have we not seen the ring acting like this in other circumstances, we also haven't seen the ring acting like this. And again, and I wouldn't even believe, I could see somebody trying to make the argument that because of the wholesomeness of Hollin, it's more sensitive to the ring, and so therefore there's something about the wholesomeness of the elf wholesomeness of Hollin that makes it more sensitive to the ring, and so it reacts differently and more strongly. The land, reacts differently and more strongly than other places have done, like the Midgewater Marshes, not shutting up the Necrobreakers as we were suggesting. But I don't think that works, because it's also been in Rivendell and in the Shire, and this didn't happen in Rivendell or the Shire either. Now, you could say you couldn't hear it in Rivendell because of all of the tra-la-la-lolly, and that's, I suppose, fair enough. But still, I don't think so. But the other reason I don't think so is that the other reason I don't think so is that it was apparently not happening at dawn. Aragorn would have noticed this days ago, right? Or at least, again, when Gandalf said, "Hey, this place is great, let's stop here," Aragorn was not concerned, right? It was only after they were camping that this suddenly began to happen. And so therefore, I don't think it can be the ring. Yeah. So anyway, so I don't think it's the ring. I'd kind of love to think that, but I don't think that. Ergo, I think it would have to be something else. Well, we're going to have to wait. The answer, I think, is not in this passage. Pointedly not in Aragorn's case, right? But this is obviously a data point that we're going to need to keep together. I would like to see if we could draw some conclusions to explain the entire set of Eregian phenomena, right? And there's a lot. These are going to pile up a little bit. Again, between here and Moria, right? The inside of Moria, because I'm going to include the Watcher in the Water in this whole analysis here. What's going on? Something's happening in Eregion. Can we understand? What kind of picture can we piece together of what the heck is actually going on in this area? Because Karita, you are so right. There is a long list of weird vibes that we get in this area, and I want to put them together and see what patterns we can find and see what evidence we have to try to make a guess to answer the question that Aragorn refuses to answer. What do we guess is the reason for all of this? Anyway, but such conclusions cannot be drawn in a night, and we are out of time for our discussion this evening. Thanks, everybody. I was going to say don't forget to tune in to stuff, but like I'm going to be broadcasting so continuously you'll barely be able to miss me one way or the other in the next few weeks. But I believe, he says cautiously, that I will be back for class next Thursday night. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, I think we'll be able to come back and carry on to maybe we'll get to the Grabine next time. So we'll see. All right. Tuesday. Did I say Thursday? Tuesday. See, I can't even keep track anymore. Right. I got stuff's happening every day of the week. Tuesday. Next Tuesday. Next Thursday, I definitely have a conflict, but next Thursday for sure. All right. Oh yeah, Bjorning and X. I was wondering about Prancing Pony Moot. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be at the Prancing Pony Moot from like Thursday night through the end of the moot. So yeah. I'll be there. That'll be a fun time. Okay. All right. Thanks everybody. Other Minds and Hands definitely happening this week. That's on Thursday, not Wednesday. So that'll be on Thursday at 4:30 this week. We'll have our first Thursday at 4:30 episode of Other Minds and Hands, and keep your eye out for the first episode of Rings and Realms prior to that. Okay. Let me go. I realized I forgot to put in my earbuds here. So let me put that in so we don't get any awkward reverb. Oh, hey, Rin, welcome. Sorry, I just, Rin, good to see you made your first live class tonight. That's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, very cool. Okay. Good evening, Valori. How are you? It's field trip time.
Good evening. Yay.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
All right.
There we go.
Hang on. There we go.
Had a little moment, but there we are. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so we are... Oh, I remember. We were looking at stone walls in the Undershire. That's where we were. Okay. Oh, did I lose you, Valori? Oh, dear. Oh, yes, and sorry. Karina Lars' daughter. I'm not going to be able to do Alice tomorrow. I'm going to be out tomorrow night. So, yes, I'm not going to... We're no Mythgard Academy tomorrow. But I'm hoping to be back at that again soon. This week is a busy week with all the premieres and screenings and stuff like that. Okay. Hang on, but I think I've lost Valori.
I'm here.
There you are. You're back now.
Can you hear me? Yep, I'm back now. Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Good. Good.
Woody
Okay.
gumdrops.
All right. So we're going back to the Undershire. So I guess we just start at no bottle again. Let's do that. There we go.
All right.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, so last time we were going to start sort of the cycle around.
From
But
no
we
bottle again.
Yeah, exactly. But so we're going to start from no bottle. And let's head out to the stable master we found last time where we discovered the intriguing stone wall. Where is that? Where are we going? To Bull Roarer's Way. Is that it?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, Bull Roarer's Way. Excellent.
So one interesting observation. I noticed that Aragorn seems to be one of the few people that Gandalf can, compliment without any cynicism or snide remarks.
Right. Without teasing, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think he's just reflecting. I think that Gandalf, I mean, he knows that Aragorn is hobbitry challenged, right? Like that is not Aragorn's dialect. Whereas again, the fact that he is teasing, notice he doesn't make any comments about Gimli, right, or anything like that. It's the hobbits that he's teasing, right? Because he knows how to communicate with them.
Gosh, darn it, where is this road?
Sorry, what'd you say?
I took the wrong road.
Oh, you took the wrong road? Oh no. Okay. All right, so here we are. We're at the stable master by the old links. Let's head up towards Tyrhad up here, and we'll see if we can find... I suppose that's that, isn't it? Yes, it is. So there's the first thing to notice.
Gosh, that was a stable master. I didn't even think of that. No wonder I lost everybody.
Oh, right. Yeah. The first thing that we notice is that this is way up on a hill overlooking this, right? And so, honestly, we can also see from the architecture, especially I'm thinking of the central dome here, this looks very old Illuminous, rather than newer Arnorian, right? So I think that this... Yeah, I think that this must be... No, we're going to have to go around quite a way. And there's a path up here, isn't there? Right in through here? I think we can get up there.
Yeah.
Okay. So this suggests that this thing... Well, there's kind of conflicting data on the one hand. On the one hand, this was clearly built in Old Illuminous time, and I don't see strong walls around the edge, so it doesn't really look like a fortress. More like a pleasure palace on the hill overlooking the beautiful fields and forests. But at the same time, it is on a really defensible location. So maybe the defenses are so strong from that side that they felt like they needed a large wall over there. Though that's sloppy castle building. But okay, so here we are coming around from the front side, well, the front door side, but not oh yeah, look at this sweeping stone steps headed up. Who's this guy? Who's a half orc? Okay. Sweeping stone steps heading up, that pretty much tears it, right? This is not a fortress. You'd want a drawbridge or something, right? I mean, this stone staircase is not quite the bridge over the river Narog, but it's similar in the sense of totally undermining the strategic advantage, the tactical advantage of being up on this hillside. So yeah, clearly a pleasure home. Like this is clearly like somebody's summer home here from Illuminous. We come in and we get these open courtyards around this central hall. They do look like half-orc quest givers. I assume the quest is to start killing them, presumably.
Yes.
Yep.
Man, I took the long way around. Here we go.
There we go. Did you make it in the end?
Yes. Oh, completed Sites of Yondershire. That's fun.
Oh.
Yeah, I got that and also became friend of the Yondershire Watch.
Really?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, look at that.
Somebody's attacking you?
We've got some lobies with us.
Yeah, so they're
I
just
see.
hitting anything that moves.
We can't get in to the main hall. All right, so let's... Hang on, let me get off my horse so I stop
Well,
staring
let's see
at
if,
its rump. Okay,
So
so...
you're saying there's no moat or anything, but we are pretty close to the river over here. It's one of those things where the path might have changed over the years.
It's possible. I mean, I certainly think that this could have been sort of more fortified as time went on. That is, later people in more doubtful times, people could have, kind of forted up here, and that would be, very understandable because it's an extremely advantageous position. Even with the stairs, you can defend.
Yeah,
it
it's also
relatively
extremely old, and I get the feeling we're at the point where the river is old enough that it's now like very straight and stuff. So it means it might have been all curvy and meandering when this place was built.
easily. Yes.
I want to see again if I can get a look over the side here and see if I can figure out if that might have been the case.
Yeah, we're not that close to the river here. Yeah, okay, so let's go and see. Like, there's another great question, is like, how much is this set up to take advantage of the view?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at this terrace here. Right, terrace here with a little lookout spot. Oh my goodness, the view. Gorgeous. Right, so there's the beautiful hillside of the old links and the forest down below. If you think about this from the point of view of old Enuminous times, the early days of Arnor, you were looking south over the untroubled frontier, right? This was, there was not much that was, in the Shire and south of the Shire.
Yeah.
East, northeast, are there towers in the distance? Okay, hang on, let me go to...
Well, you got a lot of rocks and mountains on the other side too, which would make this a pretty good vantage point without being attacked while being fortified from behind.
Right, yeah, okay, over here we do see those towers. That's... what are we seeing? Hang on.
Is that Evendim?
Well, we're looking right in the direction of Enuminous.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think where that would be. Is that weird pass, or oh no, we're closer to.
No, that's Innuminous.
That is Innuminous.
That's
yeah.
Enuminous?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Lake Everswim.
Well, that is an interesting reminder that we're much closer to Enuminous than it seems like.
If you pull up the map of the Yondershire and look in the upper right corner, you can see the faint hint of the Innuminous Hills and the city itself in the corner faded in.
Oh, over here. Right. Oh, very faded. Yeah, wow, I would have noticed that. Okay, right. And then if we go to the Evendim map, yeah, we're cool. Now these mountains south of Enuminous, I thought that those were larger. I'm surprised we can see anything, but I guess there were some towers up on top of the mountains as well. Okay, but no, this is a good reminder. It is a good reminder that we are pretty close to Enuminous at the end of the day. But yeah, anyway, this is definitely a pleasure terrace. I mean, of course, it's all covered with nasty half-orc stuff right now. But yeah, you look at the fountain, and
oh, it's just like the ones in Gondor.
Yeah, with the wings. Yes.
Swan wings. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you get to the back door of this great hall here, right?
Oh, there's a little hobbit in a cage. Poor guy.
Oh man, there's a hobbit in the cage? Oh yeah, there is.
Hobbit in a cage. They like sticking hobbits in cage, don't they?
Bounder Hawkwart. Oh no.
At least it's not Bingo Boff and that affable doofus, as Chris Pearson called him last week.
Right, the affable doofus, yeah.
Yeah, at the Gamescom
Hey.
thing.
Don't besmirch my affable doofus, please.
That's it.
Pearson said it, not me.
I know. I like Bingo.
Right.
I
Anyway.
want to smack him, but I like him.
Right. So the point is, though, when we were coming out of when back in the old days when we would come out the back, the big back door of this hall, we come to the top of these stairs. There's a beautiful fountain with the view of the hills and forests behind it, framing it, and then we come down, and there's all these. I mean, I wish these tents weren't here. I bet the Hobbit in a Cage also wishes these half-orc tents weren't here.
Want to see the view?
Yeah.
Oh wait.
But this area where all of these tents and caged hobbits are, would clearly be this, like, I bet you they had a nice picnic table down here.
Benches, yeah, absolutely.
It
does feel like an old English country home.
It does.
Got into the back terrace or whatever.
Yeah, the only thing it's missing is like some topiary or something. Some peacocks.
Yeah, exactly. And there might have been. I mean, there's not much in the way of lawns to grow topiary up here. I'm guessing the topiary was down there, not all the way down the cliff, but down on the lower level.
You could put it in pots.
You could put it in pots. Yeah, it's possible.
Or maybe a white tree.
Right.
They do like the white trees, near the. Yeah, you can see there's a little mimicking Gondor here, or rather
anticipating Gondor. Yeah,
anticipating.
Exactly.
Yeah, they like their courtyards and beautiful views, don't they?
Right. Okay. And now we've got beautiful sweeping staircase down to what would have been the little side park down here. Right. Little side park or lot. Maybe a little bowling green over here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, this would be a nice little place for bowling green. And then back out to the front, we have this little outbuilding over here.
Yeah.
This little side one, right?
Yep.
Which is probably, I don't know what the maybe it's where the indoor swimming pool was. I don't know.
Or the changing rooms for the.
Yeah, exactly. Right, the changing rooms.
Hot stone massages.
Yeah, exactly. No, this was definitely a luxury place. That seems certain.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the one that we saw when we were out in the Troll Shaws, the luxury palace that was on that big mountain looking over everything with the.
Yes.
It didn't have a fountain. I think that was like the one thing it was missing, frankly. But that was another Arnorian leisure palace.
Yeah, the one that was the one that was pre-Root Hour, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh man, the Half-Orcs in the Heights quest is already reset. Okay.
Wow.
All right. So we're going through and we're looking now at this ring of northern ruins, right? Tarhad up here, Barfaroth rather up there, Ostlagaroth, and then Llangobel over there. So we've got these four separate ruins stretched along the northern boundary of Yondershire. And remember, we already saw Tom Amathir, which is clearly a party spot, an elvish party spot, right?
Yep.
So that was an elvish party spot. This is clearly Númenorian. This is clearly old Arnorian. And we'll see what we continue to find as we move around and be able to get a sense of the more ancient history of the region. Because as interesting as all of the Hobbit stuff was in the rest of Yondershire, now we definitely need to get a longer term historical sense of things. So by the way, some people were asking me, like, hey, since we've gotten to Eregion and we're interacting with the landscape again, are we going to go back to Eregion? We sure are, but I'm going to wait till we get up in Carathras, because it's only going to take us like 2 or 3 sessions to tour the parts of Eregion that I deliberately skipped because they're related to the narrative. So
except for that one labyrinth and Redhorn.
Yeah, exactly. We have plenty of time for that, so we'll definitely get back around to that. Okay, next week, another ruin. If we can get to it, we'll head up to that other one. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you guys next week.
All right, see ya.
All right, bye.
Bye.